Well, we've all heard the statistics. Nearly half of all marriages end in divorce. But here's the good news. According to relationship expert Gary Chapman, there's hope even in the worst-case scenarios. Take a look.
Best-selling author Gary Chapman has helped thousands of couples form long-lasting relationships. For many years as a counselor, he's found that many couples are struggling to make a miserable marriage work. In his book, Loving Your Spouse When You Feel Like Walking Away, Gary offers positive steps that can change the emotional climate in a marriage and offers hope for even the most desperate situations.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club, Gary Chapman. It's great to have you here.
Well, thank you, Terry. Good to be with you.
Your book does not deal with casual. It deals with some real hardcore problems in relationships. What motivated you to write it?
Well, I think I just dealt with so many couples through the years who were in very, very difficult marriages. Yeah. And I just wanted to write a book addressed to those individuals. I'm talking about folks who live with a spouse that's been depressed for a long time, or perhaps addicted to alcohol or drugs, or verbally abusive to them, sometimes even physically abusive to them. I mean, heavy-duty situations. Mm-hmm. And I'm empathetic with those folks because I know you feel like giving up. You feel like walking away. But I'm trying to say there's another side to the story, and let me help you.
And hanging in there is sometimes the needed commodity, isn't it? Giving it time to work itself out and work itself through.
Yeah, the commitment to stay in the relationship. Now, if there's physical abuse, don't hear me saying you sit there and let them beat you up. No, no, no. But I think in many situations where we feel like walking away, if the commitment is to stay, but then the other thing is, we want to be a positive influence. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone agrees we cannot change our spouse, but we can influence our spouse. And sometimes we forget the influence part. Yeah. And we feel like, well, there's no hope. You know, they're never going to change. People do change. Mm-hmm. Every day we change. We either get better or we get worse.
Yes. Well, that's what's so good about the book is you really bring a word of hope into what can feel hopeless in those scenarios. I want you to share a little bit about where your own marriage was when you first got married. You've been married 57 years. Wow, that's awesome.
Got married when I was 9.
I knew that. But it wasn't always in the early days what it is today.
Right. Yeah, we had a very difficult time in our marriage. We were both believers. We both were following Christ. I was studying in seminary, studying to be a pastor. And we were miserable in our relationship.
That surprises people and takes people off guard, I think, also, because they assume if they're both believers and they marry, that everything's just going to find a way to work itself out. But it's not simple.
No, it is not. And, you know, I was pretty desperate because the closer I got to graduation, I'm thinking, there's no way that I can get up and preach hope to people and be this miserable. And I just said to God, I don't know what else to do. I've done everything I know to do. As soon as I said that, there came to my mind a visual image of Jesus on his knees washing the feet of his disciples.
Wow. And
I heard God say to me, that's the problem in your marriage.
Wow.
You don't have that attitude. Hit me like a ton of bricks, because I knew that was not my attitude. You know, my attitude was something like, look, I know how to have a good marriage. If you'll listen to me, we'll have one. You know?
What have you done for me
She
lately?
wouldn't listen to me. That day I got a different message, and I just said, God, forgive me.
That's a powerful
With all of my studying Greek and Hebrew, I missed the whole point. Yeah. And I said, please give me the attitude of Christ. Changed my heart. And I asked my wife 3 questions. It revolutionized our marriage. Honey, what can I do to help you? How can I make your life easier? How can I be a better husband? And when I was willing to ask the questions, she was willing to give me answers. and when I began to serve her, not overnight, but within 3 months, she started asking me those 3 questions.
That's wonderful.
Been walking this road a long time now. That's the way it ought to be.
57 years. Well, you talk about 4 myths that hinder people from having the kind of relationships that they want. What are they?
Well, one of them is that people don't change.
Yeah.
The fact is, look at history.
Sure.
People do change, you know. The other is, I'm in a hopeless situation. There's no hope. And I understand how you can feel that way, but there's always hope because God is in the equation. You know, I think another factor is that we believe that my situation is one that's different from everybody else's. Nobody really is experiencing what I'm experiencing. Yeah. And we have to break through those myths, you know.
There's a loneliness in that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. You also talk about 6 realities that can bring hope into really hopeless situations. Share some of those.
Yeah, well, one of them is that I choose my attitude.
Yeah.
You know, we don't choose our emotions. Emotions grab us, but we choose our attitude. So I can choose to have a positive attitude and look for something positive in this situation. So I'm responsible for my attitude. And then my attitude guides my behavior rather than my emotions. So I'm going to let my attitude guide my emotions. So I'm going to do something positive. Going to respond in a positive way. Going to love an unlovely spouse. And then the other factor is I'm going to choose to believe that though I cannot change my spouse, I can influence my spouse. Yeah. And when I get the concept that I'm here to be a positive influence with the help of God. And another factor is acknowledging my part in this doesn't mean I'm the bad person. Listen, none of us are perfect. So if I'm willing to say, you know, honey, I haven't handled this very well. I've been on your case a lot, and I just want to apologize for the way I've been responding to you. And you know, so maybe they forgive you, maybe they don't, but you're acknowledging your part, and that can be a thing that changes their heart because they see you not condemning them, but acknowledging that your condemnation has not been helpful. And then I think the other thing is to recognize that love is the most powerful weapon to influence a spouse in a positive way. You know, I've often challenged people in a difficult marriage. Take a 6-month challenge. Speak their love language every week, at least once a week, for 6 months, no matter how they treat you. Now, take out of that equation physical abuse, okay? And let them, and see what happens when you love them unconditionally. After all, that's the way God loves us. The Bible said he loved us when we were sinners, and he sent Christ to die for us when we were sinners. Yeah. So we let his love flow through us to influence them by speaking their love language.
I think that's so important. I say often to my own children that, you know, we assume that the love language of our spouse is what ours is, but it's usually not.
You're right.
So good to know that so that we really can be filling each other's cups. Well, I want to mention 2 books. Gary's latest book is called Loving Your Spouse When You Feel Like Walking Away. And if you or someone you love is suffering from Alzheimer's, he's also written Keeping Love Alive as Memories Fade. Both are available wherever books are sold. Gary, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Terry. Great to be with you again.